The Discover College Soccer podcast is sponsored by VIO. VIO is the #1 AI camera solution helping players capture college recruitment videos. Check out their new starter and family options by clicking on the link in the description or visit Discover College Soccer to learn more. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Cody Bartlow from Central Christian. How are we doing, Coach?
Doing well. How are you, man?
Doing great. For for aficionados of the Discover College Soccer podcast, um, if you go to the Wayback Machine, you were one of my first interviews, I believe, back in like March of 22. So eh, and you're not the first person I have now interviewed twice, as they have had coaching changes. But congrats, you're now the men's coach at Central Christian. And I believe is that in Kansas, right?
Yeah, in Kansas, just about an hour outside of Wichita.
Okay, awesome. Um, so you guys you're NAI as well as NCCAA, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so how's the transition been? How long have you been there? We're talking here May 9th. What's it been like so far?
Yeah, so I officially started on March 6th, and have just been going and blowing ever since. So the previous coach was here for 12 years, ended up getting an opportunity closer to his parents, down in Oklahoma, and his kids were graduating and stuff like that. So it worked out well for them. So took that here, has built a great program here. So now I'm coming in and trying to put our stamp on it a little bit, and one, continue what they built on, and then build on the foundation that they had already set, and just really kind of hopefully take the next steps forward into being, being a competitive program that is tough to play, to now contending for the championships and national tournaments and stuff like that. We are in NAIA and NCCAA, which means we have the chance to play in a national tournament pretty much every year. So last year they lost in the semifinals of the NCCAA national tournament. I always make sure I say that slowly, because if
Yeah,
not, it sounds like NCAA.
yeah.
Uh, but no, it's a good program, great kids. Have been recruiting my butt off. But yeah, it's going well so far.
So in terms of recruiting, this is I, from all my conversations over the last 6 months, everybody's, said this has been a different year for a number of reasons, right? It's the last COVID kind of year. Uh, the transfer portal's just been blowing up left, right, and center, and the delay in FAFSA has just shifted things completely. So for you coming into a new program in the spring, what's been your focus in terms of where you're finding players? I mean, are you still working on the 24 class, or have you moved on to 25? What's it look like right now for you?
Yeah, so when I came in, I would say roughly 40% of the roster here was either graduating or had decided to transfer when the coach announced that he was leaving. And had already found a place and stuff like that before I even got here. And so I've had to bring in a pretty heavy number. And we've accomplished that. I don't know honestly if I would have been able to do that in a normal year, but when you have COVID, when you have the transfer portal, I feel like making every school almost like a junior college esque 2 years and gone. And then with the delays in FAFSA, I think it honestly, for me, it's set up to where God worked well to where it works for me to be able to come in and bring in some really good players that I think in most other cycles would have already been gone, already committed somewhere. And then share who we're going to be, and what we're about, and it's worked out really well for us. But yeah, I think for everybody else's misery in it, I think it honestly helped me quite a bit, in just kind of accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish, to where now, like, I'm incredibly excited about the team we have coming up. We're still finishing off 24s. We just have a few more. But I mean, we're down to our last 2 to 3, as opposed to worrying about, can I get in enough kids to field a team, which we would have had anyways. But we have a good squad, and now we're just looking for those last 2 to 3 pieces that complete our squad for what we want to do next year.
Well, if I look back at the roster that the school had before you came on, there's a decent handful of internationals. Again, coming in the timing you're coming in, and with everything we just talked about, was international recruiting a part of your overall plan, or not so much, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so for me, like I've always been, so I'm from the Dallas area. I think we talked about it on my first on the first time I was on. So for me, Texas is always gonna be a big recruiting place. There's some good talent here in Wichita. I just came from the Omaha area, so I was able to bring a kid down from there as well. But yeah, for me, the international part is definitely part of it. Now, the reality is our school is a Christian school, and what I say is it's Christian by action, not just by name. Meaning, like they want to feed into you. And so with that, we want those Christian based players as well. That you don't have to be a Christian to be here, but obviously it helps. And so with that, we're probably more American based than some other programs. As far as budget wise and all that as well, I think it's much better to be heavier on the American side. So I'd say we're probably 60-40 American to international. But even for us in my class, like, so I brought in a guy from Italy, a guy from Venezuela, um, from Spain, and from England in this class, and from the Congo, and Trinidad and Tobago. So kind of all over the map. And so for us, I've always recruited that way where I want a very diverse team because for me, I think college, not just college soccer, but college in general is where you come to find out how you live in the world. And if we only bring in kids from a certain area, then yeah, our players know how to function within those bubbles, but they don't know how to function within the world. Whereas if we're bringing in different cultures, different belief systems, different ways of growing up, different backgrounds, all that, now all of a sudden there's an understanding of how to truly function in the world, no matter where you end up, because you never know where life's going to take you. So
For sure. No, I love it. Well, whether it's international, domestic, transfer, whatever the case may be, what is it that you're looking for in a player? What catches your eye? What's important to you as a coach in your recruiting?
yeah, I think for me, so obviously, they'll have the highlights or you'll see them play, and there'll be those moments that stand out. Like, okay, technical's there, athleticism is there, physicality's there. And then once I have that to just kind of get me to watch the kid, now I'm looking at the things that may not stand out as bad. So I'm looking at, mentality. So if their team goes down 1-0, what do they do? For me, like even with the internationals, like I always want to watch full games. I don't want highlights are great, but give me a full game so I can see how you play. And then realistically, give me two halves from two different games so I can see how you react. What do does your head go down when you lose the ball, or does it stay up? Right. Especially coming off. So yesterday, Bayern played Real Madrid. Real Madrid should be beat at numerous times throughout that entire Champions League run so far, and they are never beaten. And it's like, so those things, those extra little intangibles that you can't that I'm looking for is, you know, do I think that kid can come in here and be a good part of our program because they're always going to fight, they're supportive, they're pushing, they're holding accountability. So it means they're not nice all the time, but they're holding accountability, they're doing things in the right way. And then for me, it's when we get on the phone call. So when we get on the phone call, we're looking like, for me, recruiting girls to recruiting guys is not that different in what our messaging is and what we're looking for, because for me it's recruiting people, generally, right? And so, the biggest way that we judge success, whether I was as a women's coach or now as a men's coach, is, man, like I want people that are gonna come in here and stand next to guys on their wedding day. Like I want those top end people that are gonna be part of your life forever for good, that are gonna, hold you accountable, be your best friends for 15, 20, 30 years after you leave here. And I want those type of people here. And so that's what we're looking for. And that's what we find out and kind of get a judge of when we're on those calls and with them. And so for us, that's the big part. Is the soccer part kind of gets the attention. From there, we're now looking a little bit deeper into seeing how you are intangibly on the field. And then what kind of makes or breaks us offering you is that intangible part off the field.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, let's talk more about the school. You were uh, at Midland, and you made the move. So what drew you into the program? What drew you into the school? What are some awesome things you found out about the school that maybe we wouldn't know about?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, so it's a small Christian school. Like I said, it's an hour outside of from the Wichita airport, 45 minutes from Stryker. If you've been in Wichita, you know the Stryker soccer complex. So, it's a good location. There's cities all around it. There are 20, 30, 50,000 people. So for me, like I look at it like the Dallas Metroplex where everything's 45 minutes away and I feel very at home. Um, it is a smaller town, it's 15,000 people in McPherson. But people are just incredibly nice. And then for the school itself, so I actually played against the school, I assisted, coached against it when I was an assistant at Southwest Christian. And it's funny, like back then, I don't know that I ever would have thought that I would be here. You know what I mean? And so, but coming up here and interviewing for the job, I actually had a buddy of mine who called me and was like, "Hey, you need to apply for Central." And I honestly wasn't even really on my radar at the moment. And then so I applied, going through the process, meeting with the AD, meeting with the president, the search committee. I just felt like a sense of belonging, but then also a sense of being kind of called here. Um, the school itself has about 300 undergrads, so it's a really small school. Your class sizes are 10 to 15 to 1. I think our biggest classroom holds like 35 people. And they've always functioned that way. And so, honestly, like a fear for me coming in with where we're at in today's culture is, is the school going to stay open? And then you get here and you realize like how well they function on those numbers and on that income and how there's a reason they're not at 1,000 students because they know that it's not sustainable. Like, but where we sit at is like perfect for this school, right? Um, and then you saw the sense of community. So just like most NAIs, it's a lot of student athletes. It's primarily student athletes, but kind of seeing how everyone supported each other, how everyone, is really supportive of every sport and every athlete and wanting to see everyone do well. Um, and then just having kind of that background behind with the faith base, which it falls in my belief system. And I've come from Christian education. I went to Dallas Baptist University. And so being able to be that part of me as well while I'm doing the sport I love was a big part. And then honestly, like my daughter moved up here with me. And so when we toured the school, she loved it, which surprised me because she went to a big 6A public school down in Dallas area. And she loved it. And I'm like, so all those kind of factors just fell in line to where, this was the right spot.
Okay, awesome. Well, a lot of times I'll say, okay, walk me through a typical week, but you haven't had one yet. As you're coming up through the season, but in preparation for your first season in the fall, what do you expect things to look like in terms of practice times and your conference game cadence and things like that?
Yeah, so this year we're actually on an academic calendar reset to where they've had to kind of pop it back. So we're coming in a little bit later than honestly I wish we were. So we'll come in on August 9th. We'll do a 3-day retreat with the team. And we'll do registration, movement, all that stuff. And then we're going full bore on August 13th. So for us, it'll be a lot of two-a-days because our first scrimmage is on the 16th. So we get to get in and then get right onto it. So it'll be a lot of two-a-days early on, and then once we start school on the 26th, one of the things I like about here a lot, you have class from 8 to about 2:50, and then after 2:50, there's no classes. So the student life balance is really great to where we can practice at 3:15, and then when we finish, they have the rest of the evening for studying, for study hall, for to hang out, to go to the pickleball courts and play pickleball. They're trying to put in a new sand volleyball court, so I know as soon as they do that, that thing will be packed all night long. So they have all that kind of freedom, and they don't have that broken up. Whereas like Midland, we had night classes starting at 6:30, so they'd be like school, soccer, school. And so they never had that time to kind of decompress. So I really enjoy that here with our schedule. But yeah, that's kind of what it's going to look like. I mean, so in our conference, played Tuesdays and Saturdays typically. And so we'll practice Monday. play Tuesday, recovery session Wednesday, full big session on Thursday, game prep Friday, play Saturday. Sundays are always off.
Okay. Well, in terms of, you know, talking more about the team and the season and stuff, and obviously your first recruiting class, what roster size are you guys trying to hit for the fall? And do you guys have a reserve team or what does that look like?
Yeah, so we are. So my goal is to hit 50 on our 50 on our roster size coming out of recruiting. I mean, anybody that's been in this game knows there's going to be two or three that for whatever reason aren't able to come typically, whether that be visa or loss of job in the family and that we just don't foresee. So we do have a reserve program. So for us, we'll have our first group be 22 to 24, and then our reserves will be 25 on. Um, and so we do play a full reserve. Our conference actually has a reserve tournament as well. So all the schools will come up and play like a conference tournament at Stryker in Wichita. And so we'll be part of that as well. So they get a full experience. And then, for me, like it's not your first team or your reserve. It's, very, very fluid where you can work up and work down. But yeah, our roster size will be at 50 max. The school honestly only asked me to be at 35. For us, I wanted the ability to they were at 40 last year, but sitting there makes you really tight on your reserves. If you get a few injuries, those games in. So I want to make sure our guys always have the ability to play and develop and do what they came here to do, which is, obviously get the degree, but I mean, they come here to play soccer, right? They come here to play the sport. And so I got to make sure they have those abilities and the ability to prove and show why they should be, if they want to be on that first team, why they should be that. And so they got to have those opportunities for me. So that's where we sit.
Okay. Well, I mean, you've only been there a couple months, but have you had a chance to build out a staff, or what do you assume the staff will look like come August? Not to mention the support staff that the athletic department offers. What's that look like?
Yeah. So we're actually hiring right now. So the assistant coach that was here, had been here so he played here and then he coached here. So he'd been here for 12 years total. But him and his wife have moved out towards Colorado, start moving closer to California. And so like I'm actually in the process of interviewing GAs. So we're looking to hire 1 to 2 GAs. And then I have a volunteer assistant coach, and then actually I have a call probably later today with the undergrad who former player who got hurt, doesn't want to play, can't play anymore. So looking to get into coaching. So kind of be an undergrad assistant maybe. But yeah, so we'll build our staff out like that. Ideally, we'll be somewhere 4 of us, 5 of us total. For me, it's making sure that there's the ability to have connection points for every one of the student athletes. Um, so that way, retention's important. They feel like they're cared about and they're taken care of. I mean, if it falls just on me, the reality is there's just too many. And then I have a daughter as well and a son that I have to take care of, and so they get my attention as well. And so while coaching is taking other people's kids, I think our families always kind of suffer a little bit. So for me, that's an area where I'm very focused on, especially right now, of making sure that I'm taking care of my family as well, and not dipping in any way, shape, or form on taking care of our players. So
Well, I mean, you'll be having to kind of train up some new staff to get used to you and your style of play. So, what is that? What's that going to look like? If there's a recruit out there interested, what can they expect with you as their coach?
yeah, so I mean, what I always say is like we want to take the chaotic game, the uncontrollable game, and control it as much as we possibly can. So, we play the way I think you live life. So, which is, on the front foot, going out, being aggressive, making your own luck, things like that. So we're very possession based. We want to keep the ball. We play it on the ground. We keep it short, quick passes in the defensive and middle third. Try to create wide overloads in the middle third to attract opponents or to beat them through the wide overload. If we are able to attract them and not progress forward, we're going to look to go out and hit a 1v1 on the other side, um, and just be aggressive. Out of possession, we're going to be high press. We're going to be very aggressive. Our message to our guys is always listen. It's a game of mistakes. It's a game of failure, and that's fine. Like we're not going to get on you about that, but make aggressive mistakes. Don't make the mistake. Don't give up the goal because we sat back hoping that they would miss wide. Close the space, get up there, be aggressive. Sometimes that bites us where we give up PKs and stuff like that. But I'd much rather them do that and kind of come out with that mindset of, everything in life that I really want, I'm just going to go attack. I'm going to go be on the front foot and go make it happen. I'm not going to wait for someone to give me an opportunity. I'm going to go make my own luck and put myself out there. And we relate it back to that every day. And that's why we play the way we do, is because, again, I think it's the way you have to live life to be successful, is just be out there. But yeah, I mean, we're not a set formation. So if you come here, you're not going to necessarily just play a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. You're going to play kind of where we see and how we want to best use our talents coming forward. So like as I look at it this year, I think we'll probably be a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-4-2-1. Just because of the way we want to use some of our guys and put them in the best positions to be their best version. Our style doesn't ever change based off of what formation we run or anything like that. But this little small tweaks of how we get guys into the positions we want them to be in, that's why we'll change our formations and stuff like that. The other part for us is like, I think one of the biggest changes for our guys from moving in with me now is like, I told our guys, I was like, listen, I go, we're never going to change who we are for an opponent. So we're possession control based team that's going to try to dominate the ball. I'm not going to turn and then just go low block and sit because I'm playing the number one team in the country. Like, it's just not going to happen. We'll make adjustments and we'll be smart. We're going to do everything we can to win the game, but we're not going to abandon who we are and be like, okay, we're going to go low block or hit the channels, be fast and run, and hopefully we get a goal. Like, it's just not who we are. Because again, to me, it's so much more than just the game. Like, it's professional for me because I'm getting paid, right? This is my job, this is my career, but it's not professional for them. I don't have a city living and dying on their results. And so for me, like, it's got to teach our players something else besides just a game. And again, for me, that's life. You got to be true to who you are. You got to be true to, the person you are. You can't be changing who you are just based off the situation you're in. You always have to have those pieces of your truth with you at all times. So
All right. Love it. Well, you've given us a lot, and I've got one last question for you, and it's one I wasn't even asking the last time we talked. So I'll throw
okay.
you for a little bit of a loop, maybe. But if if you could distill down one nugget or piece of information you think would be valuable for all potential student athletes to know about the college recruiting process, what would that be?
Ooh. I think ultimately for me, it's go where you're wanted and then make sure the connections you have are genuine. Um, as everyone's hitting the portal and we see all these numbers, like, go where you're wanted. I understand this school may be your dream school or that school. Like I said, I never would have thought I would be here, honestly. Like, this is not my plan. For me, for my faith, this is God's plan, right? And so, but there's so many blessings from me being here already. From not for just me, but like for my daughter who's here as well. Like, so many blessings that I could have never experienced, right? But I went where I was wanted. And that's the biggest thing for me. And then the other part, for me, there's no difference in recruiting because I just try to be genuine as best I can. If you love me, great. If you don't like me, no problem. But you're gonna know who I am and what you get with me, right? That's the other part, man, is don't go for the sales pitch. Don't go for, what they're selling you on. Like, genuinely, what do they think of you? Genuinely, do they want to see you do well as a person first and foremost, as a student, as a player? And that should all wrap up together. If it doesn't, guess where you're going to be in a year to two? Probably in that portal. And then if you look at the numbers, that doesn't mean a lot more often than not, you end up not playing as opposed to going to a different school where you do well. And so I know it's easy to kind of jump in there, but before you get there, find the right place for you where you're wanted and where that connection that you have to the team, and very, very important, the team, those connections are genuine. And then where you're connected with the staff and with the administration of the school and your admissions council and all that, where those contacts are genuine.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, Coach, really appreciate it. Wish you the best of luck this first season there in the fall. And if you get to any of the recruiting events down here in Florida, let me know. All right.
I will for sure. So it's good talking to you again, though.
You too, Cody. Take care.
All right, have a good one.
Hi, everybody. It's Matt from Discover College Soccer. I hope you're enjoying the podcast, whether that's on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I also wanted to let you know about the Discover College Soccer Study Table. This is our brand new online portal that is complete with a 14-part online course giving you all of the ins and outs of the college soccer recruiting process. There's also a wealth of resources such as checklists, templates. There's the spreadsheets that have every soccer program in the country along with their coaches, their contact information, their social media information, some basic stats about the school, and more. Plus, there's an online community where you can ask your questions, share your wins, your losses, any questions that you may have around the college soccer recruiting process. It's all there at the Discover College Soccer study table that you can find at discovercollegesoccer.com/study table, and hopefully we will see you there.